Hey everyone, welcome to the investor.bet NRL round 20 try scorer projections video. I have 15 players that I'm backing to score a try this week. I'm going to go through every one of those selections and share with you based on statistical data, team performance, their trends, and their strengths and weaknesses, why I'm happy to play and back these players. Also go through which bookmaker has the best odds available for each one. And the point of this video is to show you how you can research, in this case, try scorer selections, but these similar principles apply across anything that you're betting on by having access to the right information and the data that then you know how to analyze it. You can find really good bets that result in long-term profit. So for the first game this week, which is on Thursday night, we have the Dolphins against the Cowboys. We have two plays in this game, both on the Dolphins side of things. I'll go through what I looked at with the Cowboys side, but how we use the Bet Finder tool here is we're looking to identify the best possible matchup. So in the Dolphins-Cowboys game, this column shows us the tries for and where they're scored by the Dolphins. This is their average. They average one try per game to the fullback, which is the best in the league, and that's why they have the number one ranking. But if you go down to the second row, they're only averaging 0.35 tries per game to their second rowers, which ranks 13th in the league. And we're looking for high rankings in this section, so that's where they consistently score tries, and going up against poor rankings in where their opponent concedes their tries. So if we see 14s, 15s, 16s, 17s against high rankings in this section, then it's likely we have a good matchup. But that's just the first step. Then I go through and do a little bit of deeper digging. We look at that ranking that they're having. Is it based on form right at the beginning of the year or on recent form? Because if it's recent form as well, then it's looked to be a perfect setup. We'll just match that up with the players and that kind of thing. So firstly, for the Dolphins, at fullback, we're going to play Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow in his first game back. He's $1.95 at Bet365. Now, the Cowboys have conceded to the opponent fullback in 4 of the past 5 games. Tabuai-Fidow has scored in 4 straight games, also has scored in 6 of his past 7 overall. Obviously missing a few games here and there with State of Origin, but just looking at his last 4 games, he's scored a total of 8 tries in those 4 games. He didn't play in the game not that long ago against the Cowboys, which the Dolphins won up in Townsville 58 points to 4. But he has scored in 1 of his 3 games previously against the Cowboys. And that game earlier this year where the Dolphins beat the Cowboys, Jake Averillo, who's playing in the halves now this week for the Dolphins, he played fullback filling in for Tabuai-Fidow and scored a try in that match. So at close even money, I think is a really good bet. Definitely expected him to be more so priced around the $1.70, $1.75 mark, particularly with his form and also this being a weak spot for the Cowboys and being played at Suncorp Stadium as well even favors it more. So that's going to be the first selection. Also did look closely at Herbie Farnworth, who he backed to score a try last week against the Sharks. He's only around the $1.90, $1.95 mark at a few places this week, which I don't really think there's a lot of value in that price. Like for the game last week against Cronulla, we got $2.50 for him to score a try. So I'm not really keen on taking the short price. When you look at this matchup, 3rd versus 14th on paper, looks good. However, the Cowboys haven't conceded to the left center in their last 3 games. And also across their last 8 games, the left center's only scored against them in 2 of those 8 games. So a lot of those tries that are contributing to that low ranking for the Cowboys has been from earlier on in the season. And mind you, Farnworth has been in really good form. He scored a try in 10 of his last 12 games. He got one in the game earlier this season against the Cowboys. But it's more so a price thing for me as opposed to it's a terrible matchup. But the Cowboys defense, as I said, has been good at defending that position in recent times overall. But we're going to play into this left center position a little bit because we're going to back on the left wing for the Dolphins, who's with Averillo moving into the halves. Vita Nafahu comes in on the wing. He's $2 at Bet365 to score a try. This will just be his 2nd career game. And overall, as part of this play, Dolphins, their last 4 games, they've scored 6 tries on the left edge to just 1 on the right edge. They're having a tendency over the last month to go towards that left side more often, and it also matches up nicely as the Cowboys rank 15th at defending that side of the field to 10th on the opposite side of the field. So it's also the Cowboys' weaker side defensively. North Queensland have conceded to the left winger in 4 of their past 5 games. Also 5 of the past 7 if you go back a little bit further than that as well. And at even money, happy to play him. I think Cowboys will have that little bit of extra focus on Farnworth. Look to close him down, which could open up Nafahu on the wing, and he may be able to run over for an easy try. So happy to play him at even money, with the tendency of the Dolphins to go more so down that left edge of the field. Also, second rowers for the Dolphins isn't a bad option, because the amount of tries Cowboys concede to second rowers. They've conceded to the second row in 5 of the last 6 and 7 of the last 9 games. However, the Dolphins don't really have any consistent, or just at least somewhat consistent, second rowers at scoring tries. So they may get one, but in this case I don't want to play it. I'll look for, generally how I play it is I look for situations where you've got that poor ranking, and when the Cowboys are going up against sides where the forwards and second rowers get tries, and there's teams that do that, and that's the time when I'll look to play them. So just the 2 plays on the Dolphins. At fullback, Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow, $1.95 at Bet365. And on the left wing, Tavita Naufal, $2 at Bet365. For the Cowboys, I'm not going to play any selections. I did look on the right wing, Jackson Paulo, who's lining up there. The Dolphins rank 15th defensively against right wingers, and they've conceded to the right wing in 2 of their last 3 games. However, the Cowboys, they're fairly even on both sides of the field, but definitely prefer their left side, like Maro Tulagi on that left wing, but that's a bad matchup for him this week against this Dolphins defense. So they're the 2 ways that I looked at it. Outside of that, there's no other ways that I really was keen on going, and I'm happy just to stick with the 2 selections on the Dolphins. Sharks versus Roosters, the first game on Friday night. 2 plays in this game, 1 on either side. It was a game where I had 4 players shortlisted as potential bets, technically 5 actually, and narrowed it down to 2, 1 on each team. So firstly, for the Sharks, the play that we're going to make is on the right wing, and that is Sione Katoa. He's $1.95 at TAB. The Roosters have conceded to the right winger in the last 2 games. Since returning from injury late in the season, Katoa has scored in 2 of those 5 games. A total of 3 tries. He has also scored in 3 of his past 4 games against the Sydney Roosters. I'm happy to play him. Sharks had plenty of success on that right edge. Last week, Nicho Hynes going over for 2 tries on the right-hand side of the field. Jesse Ramian scored, and also Katoa scored in that game against the Dolphins. Expect the Sharks, having had that success last week, that's the weaker side defensively for the Roosters as well. It all points to them continuing and having that momentum again this week. Speaking of Nicho Hynes, and then also in the halves, Braden Trindle, did strongly consider playing either one of those 2 players or half staking both. I wouldn't talk you out of approaching it from that perspective. Just couldn't quite pull the trigger on them. It is a really good matchup for them. Roosters concede the 2nd most tries to opponent halves. They've also conceded to a half in 6 of the last 10 games. Just both Trindle and Hynes, they're not real, super consistent try scorers in the halves that a few teams have, and definitely wouldn't be surprised if they were to score. Just don't want to make them one of the selections this week, particularly since we already have 15 selections. Also looked in the 2nd row at Britain Nikora. He's just under $3. The Roosters, whilst they rank 4th defensively to second rowers, they have been conceding more recently. They've conceded to an opponent's second rower in 5 of their last 7. Nikora is the go-to second row try scorer for the Sharks, but he's only scored in 1 of his past 8 games. He definitely gets lots of opportunities near the line, and also plays on that right edge, which we're going with Sione Katoa. I'm just not going to play him this week. I'll look for a better situation moving forward to see if he can get back on track. So Katoa is the 1 selection for the Sharks, but definitely look closely, just sharing behind the scenes of when I was going through each team's players. Look closely at Trindle, Hynes, and Nikora for the Sharks. Then on the Roosters side, we're going left center. This is where the Sharks concede the most tries of any team, and that is Billy Smith. He's $3.20 at Bet365. The Sharks have conceded to the opponent left center in 5 of their last 8, and Billy Smith has scored in his past 2 games for a total of 3 tries. Yet to score in either game against the Sharks, but if he's ever going to get an opportunity, this is going to be it. Playing inside of Daniel Tupou, who's on that left wing. The Sharks have only conceded to the left winger once in the last 4 games, so that's defensive matchup has been improving, but this is certainly their weaker side, with quite a lot of tries coming through that left center position. So Billy Smith at 320. Here's the way I want to go. When you compare like Daniel Tu, who's priced around the even money mark, just over or just under, depending which bookmaker that you look at, I'm happy playing Billy Smith at basically double the price. The other game on Friday night is the Panthers against the Rabbitohs. Now, keep in mind, Penrith are resting Nathan Cleary and Isaiah Yeo, which definitely hurts them. I spoke about this in the game-by-game preview that's already been posted on the channel. I'm going to play two players for the Panthers, though, in this game. Firstly, on the left wing, we've had a lot of success backing Tom Jenkins this season. He's $1.87 at Bet365. The Rabbitohs rank 9th defensively. However, they've conceded to the left winger in 4 of the last 5 games for a total of 6 tries. So that ranking is dropping really quickly. Jenkins has scored in 4 of his last 5 games, a total of 6 tries as well. So that trend is identical for the Rabbitohs conceding and him scoring. He didn't score in his only game versus the Rabbitohs, which was round 4 this season, but for that game was playing in the centres, where this time around he's on that left wing and he's been scoring plenty of tries there. The Panthers are now up to the 3rd best left edge combination. The Rabbitohs are very good at defending right centre and right winger, not so much the left centre, left winger. Expect the Panthers to look to go that way, and Jenkins can cross for a try. I'm really happy with the price at $1.87 as well. Then also for the Panthers, we're going into the halves, because this is where the Rabbitohs give up the most tries of any team. They've conceded to an opponent half in the last 6 games, and most of the damage that's contributing to this 17th ranking has been through the 5/8. So we're going Blaze Tulagi. He's $3.90 at Bet365 to score a try. He's scored 4 tries in his last 10 games, so going at just a touch under 50%, but has scored in both his games against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Brad Schneider, who's the half for the Panthers this week, also has a really good record against the Rabbitohs. He scored in 3 straight against them, so definitely look closely at him, and he's also about $1 more. He's around the $5 mark to score a try. And so you could half stake both of them, but Blaze Tulagi is going to be the selection that I'm going with at that $3.90. Good record. Rabbitohs give up so many tries to halves, and Tulagi has decent try scoring form for a half as well, and $3.90, I definitely think there is value there. No other plays for the Panthers. Also, not going to play anyone for the Rabbitohs this week. The issue that I have is the Rabbitohs only go to the left. We know that they're the number 2 left edge attack and the worst right edge attack in the competition. It's very crystal clear. And also with Latrell Mitchell coming back into the side, they're even more dominant on that left side. So that's the way they're going to be going. And with that in mind, like, you've got Alex Johnson on that left wing. He's going for the try scoring record. They want to get him tries. That's basically what the Rabbitohs season comes down to now. And so as much as they've already been doing that for most of the season, I think it's going to get even more predictable as over the final couple of months. But the Panthers are very good at defending that side. The Panthers' right edge is number 3 in the league, and they rank 5th against left wingers. Brian To'o is playing right wing for the Panthers this week, so it's a really tough matchup for Alex Johnson. It's not to say he can't score a try or anything like that. Wouldn't surprise me at all, but in terms of backing him to score a try, I don't want to do it with this matchup. The Panthers will be well aware of the way the Rabbitohs attack, and we've seen teams like, once Johnston went on that run where he scored 4 tries in a game and was scoring multiple tries each week, everyone got awake to it, and the defenses adjust and good coaches adjust to that with the defensive setups to cater for the side that are always going to the left-hand side of the field. So I'm not going to play Alex Johnson. We'll look to find him, though, in matches against teams that can't defend on their right side, but this isn't the case this week. Then Raiders versus Eels. 2 plays in this game, both on the Raiders side of things. Firstly, did look real close at Xavier Savage on the right wing. He's a little bit too short for me to make him worthwhile backing this week. The Eels ranked 16th on opponent right wingers. They've conceded to the right wing in the last 2 games. Xavier Savage, his last 8 games is going at 50%. He scored in 4 of those 8 games, total of 6 tries, and has scored 5 tries in the last 4 home games, and has also scored 3 straight against the Eels. there's lots of factors that tell you that this is a really good matchup for him. It's just more so a price thing. If he was around the $1.80, $1.90 mark, then he'd definitely be a bet, just with that little bit inconsistent form. It's not bad, but it's not outstanding for a winger. I'm going to play on the left wing now. When you look at this, it's not really a good matchup. 15th for the Raiders, and then it's the same 16th ranking for the Eels defensively. However, Parramatta have conceded to the opponent left winger in 6 straight games. Jed Stewart, since debuting for the Raiders, has played 3 games and he's scored in 2 of those 3 games. This will be his first time facing the Eels, and it's basically the easiest, if not close to the easiest matchup that he's going to get. Raiders at home, they ran up a big score against the Eels at TIO Stadium earlier this season. I'd be surprised if they score 50 plus, but I think they can definitely score 30. Stewart likely gets a try on that left side. He's $1.80 at Neds, and he'll be the first selection in this game. Then we're also going to play in the second row for the Raiders and take Hudson Young at $2.50 at Bet365. The Raiders score more tries than any team through the second rowers, most of those coming through Hudson Young. He scored in 6 of his past 10 games. This will be his first game since round 16. He scored 2 tries in that game back in round 6 against Parramatta, and has scored in his past 3 against them as well. Parramatta rank 13th defensively against second rowers, and they've conceded to the opponent's second rower in 3 of the last 4 games. Obviously, with second rowers, you've got the 2 second rowers and the lock that are contributing to that category. But for the Raiders, most of those tries are coming through Hudson Young, and he's playing on that left edge as well. And with that in mind, against this Eels defense, I'd be very surprised if either Stewart or Young, and neither of them, score a try. And so Stewart $1.80 at Neds, and Hudson Young $2.50 at Bet365. Bulldogs versus Dragons. We've got 2 plays here, both on the Bulldogs side of things. My theory for this game is the Bulldogs defense is great. They're the number 1 defensive side, but in attack, they have issues, and they only scored 12 points against the Cowboys side last week up in Townsville, which is definitely concerning. But the Dragons have been one of the worst defensive teams as well over the past month or so, and the Bulldogs get the opportunity to get some confidence up in their attack, and I think they're really going to need it when they face some of the better sides. Like, they grounded out a low-scoring game against Panthers, ended up losing by 2 points. That can work in finals, and games will really come down to the wire and be 2 or 4 point games either way. But to give themselves a better shot in finals, if they can have success in attack, Lachlan Galvin is playing halfback this week. So it's going to be interesting to see how they go. But in my opinion, this is the game where they need to get their attack going and at least get some confidence and run in 30 points here against the Dragon side that's struggling in defense. So I'm going to play 2 players for the Bulldogs. Firstly, on the right wing, Jacob Carraz. He's $1.95 at Bet365. The Dragons have a 10th ranking to the opponent right winger, and they've conceded to this position in 4 of the past 5 games. Hasn't scored in his last 5, so he's been a little bit lean lately. He didn't play in the game versus Dragons earlier this season, but did score a double against them in the first game against them last year. Didn't score in the following game later last season. But with him on the right wing, I'm definitely expecting the Bulldogs to go towards that right side more often. You've got Jacob Carraz on the wing, and then Stephen Crichton at right center, compared to it's Jethro Kama and also Enari Tuala on the left side. So, like, when you just look at the team on paper, Bulldogs should go towards the right side more often than not in their attacking opportunities. And on that right wing, at close to even money for Carraz, happy to make him play. Then in the second row, now we've been going back and forth with Kickout, Preston for the past couple of months, and both of them are scoring tries basically on alternating weeks. This game, taking Jacob Preston, he's $3 at Bet365. Bulldogs score the second most tries through second rowers, and the Dragons have conceded to an opponent's second rower in the past 4 games. He plays on that right side of the field, where I think the Bulldogs will go more often. This season, the past 7 games, he's scored a try in 5 of those and has scored in 1 of his last 3 against the Dragons. So at $3, he's going to be the other selection. Just really like the fact that they're both on that side of the field. Bulldogs will go that way, and we're getting close to even money for Carraz, the $1.95, which is at Bet365, and then $3 for Preston, also at Bet365. Be surprised if at least one of those two don't get a try in this game, assuming the Bulldogs turn up in attack. Storm versus Seagulls on Saturday night. Two plays here, both on the Melbourne Storm. Also did look at a few players for the Seagulls, which I'll run through as well. But firstly, on the right wing for Melbourne, where they score the most tries of any team, and the Seagulls, this is their worst position defensively. We're going to take Kane Bradley. He's $1.95 at Bet365. The Seagulls have conceded to the opponent right winger in 2 of the last 4 games. He's only played 3 games so far this season, Bradley, and has scored 4 tries and scored in 2 of those 3 games. Got a double last week. This will be his first game against the Seagulls. Has a really good matchup, and I definitely think he can cross for a try. Do think there's quite a bit of value there at the $1.95, that's for sure. And then we're also going to take in the halves, Jerome Hughes. He's $3.20 at Neds. The Seagulls have conceded to an opponent half in 3 of the last 5 games. Hughes has also scored in 3 of his past 5, and he scored 4 tries in his last 3 home games. And against the Seagulls, he scored in 2 of the past 3 against them. So at $3.20, I'm happy to make him a play with that form. And if it was a day game, then I'd be slightly even more confident with Hughes. And if the Storm were going to run up a score like they generally do in afternoon games at home compared to this game being at night. But at the $3.20, still happy to play him. Did also look at Harry Grant as well for the Storm, but just going to keep it to the 2 selections. And then for the Seagulls, the main player that I looked at here is on the right wing, and that is Jason Saab. The Storm have conceded to the opponent right winger in 5 of the last 6 games. That's giving them a 10th ranking right now. Saab, early on in the season, was in really good try scoring form. That's dropped off a little bit. He's now playing outside of Tom Trbojevic with that lineup shift for Manly, which has definitely worked so far since they have done it. He has a decent record against the Storm. He scored 5 tries across his past 5 games against them. The only issue I have with that Storm recent form, where I said they've conceded in 5 of their last 6 games, those 5 games where they've conceded a try, Xavier Coates, who plays left wing for Melbourne, was out in those games, and that's not the case this week with him. I expect to line up on the left wing. That recent form and this poor ranking, I think, is just being made a little bit worse due to Coates missing games through Origin and whatnot. Whilst Manly are the number 1 right edge, the Storm defense, when they're at full strength, isn't as bad as this overall ratings currently in the recent form suggests. So just wanted to be cautious of that. The Seagulls' left side isn't that great, and that's the worst side defensively for Melbourne. Potentially they may look to target that a little bit more, but outside of Saab, there was no other really way I wanted to go. And once I looked into it and found Coates missing in those games where they've been giving up those tries, I'm just happy to put a line through it. I'm just going to stick with the 2 plays for Melbourne. And then on Sunday, not a major fan of either of these 2 games on Sunday, but we got 3 bets across the 2 of them. Firstly, Tigers versus Titans. We've got 1 play each side here. On the Tigers, we're going at right center. That is Stafford Toa. He's $2.45 at Neds. I do think there's a bit of value in that price. You've got number 2 ranked right center in terms of tries scored, going against the 2nd worst defensive position for the league, and that is for the Titans in 16th ranking. Gold Coast have conceded to the opponent right center in 4 of the last 5 games. Stafford Toa scored in 3 of his last 6, going at 50%. However, those 3 tries came beyond those 3 weeks ago, so he hasn't scored in his last 3, scored in 3 straight prior, and he has scored in 1 of his 2 games against the Titans. $2.45, I think there's a little bit of value there. $2.30 would probably be my cutoff in terms of there being enough value to play it. Titans were better defensively against Brisbane, but now do they have a letdown following that on the road against lower ranked opposition and not a rival? There's certainly the chance of that, but happy to play Toa. And the key thing with this game is Tigers certainly favour that right side of the field. Taruva's at fullback at the moment with Bula out, and that definitely brings Stafford Toa into play a little bit more. Charlie Staines is lining up on the right wing, which right here you can see a 17th ranking, which definitely looks good. However, Gold Coast haven't actually conceded to the opponent right winger in their last 5 games. So teams haven't been having success. So at the better odds compared to Staines, I'm happy to go with Toa. So he's going to be the play for the Tigers. Then on the Titans side of the field, they can't really attack the edges a great deal because the West Tigers' edge defense is actually pretty good considering. The positions they give up tries through is the fullback. So definitely looked at AJ Brimson, who scored in 4 of his last 5 games against the Tigers and also his last 3 straight. But the play that I'm going to go with is in the halves. We've got 2nd versus 15th matchup. I'm going to play Jaden Campbell at $4, which is at Bet365. The Tigers have conceded to a half in their last 2 games, 3 tries total. When you separate 5/8 and halfbacks, the Tigers give up the 3rd most tries in the league to opponent halfbacks. Jaden Campbell has scored in 2 of his last 5 games and has scored in his last 2 games against the Tigers. So at $4, definitely think there's value there. Expected him to be priced $3.20, $3.30 to be fair. So when I saw $4, was definitely happy to make that the other selection in this match. But certainly wouldn't talk you out of playing Brimson at fullback either. I think he's good, like the 3rd best selection for the Tigers-Titans matchup. And then last game, Knights versus Warriors. This is the game we just have the 1 selection in because I have a little bit of a feeling it could be a low-scoring game. Like the Knights, they've started to become higher-scoring games, but it's a tricky matchup here for them against the Warriors, who had a good confidence-boosting win last week against the Tigers. For the Knights, not going to take any selections this week. I definitely like their right edge in terms of Fletcher Hunt at center and Dom Young on that right wing. I think that is really going to suit them going forward. The issue this week is this is the much better side defensively for the Warriors. They rank 13th at defending on their right edge, but on their left edge defensively, they're ranked 3rd overall in the league. I don't want to play it this week, but we may find some good spots over the next few weeks for the Knights to target Young and for Newcastle. Then for the Warriors, looked closely at Dallin Watene-Zelezniak on the right wing. It's a poor ranking overall for the season, but he's obviously missed quite a lot of games. The Knights have conceded to the right wing in 2 of the last 3. They rank 13th against this position, whereas if you look at right center, they give up the least tries, left center, they give up the least tries, and left wing, they give up the least tries of any team. So in terms of the 4 players on the edges of the field for the opposition, the opponent right winger is the only one they're giving up tries to. But Watene-Zelezniak is definitely a very consistent scorer. He's scored in 3 of his past 4 games and has also scored in 3 of the past 5 against the Knights. Just based on the odds, just happy to avoid it this week. And just for this game, the fact I think it's going to be a little bit low scoring, I'm just going to take the 1 selection and look for a player that's just a little bit more value, who's also in really good form, who scored for us last week. That's Laker Halima. He's $3.75 at TAB, which I think is a really good price considering he's scored in 4 of his last 5 games, and Newcastle have conceded to a second rower in 5 of the past 6 games. So whilst they rank 6th, which is actually pretty good, the recent form is one of the worst in the competition. And Halima, he got the late try for the Warriors last week. I'm thinking get another one here against the Knights, and at $3.75, which is at TAB. Happy to play him. So I'll recap all the selections real quick. These selections are all listed out in the best bets earlier in the week. So if you're in the best bets membership, you get access to them earlier. But for the Dolphins, Hamas $1.95 at Bet365. And on the left wing, Tavita Nafaho, $2 at Bet365. For the Sharks, $1.95 at TAB. And Roosters, left center, Billy Smith, $3.20 at Bet365. For the Panthers, we're going Thomas Jenkins, $1.87 at Bet365. And Blaze Talagi at $3.90 at Bet365. Raiders, Eels. For the Raiders, Jed Stewart, $1.80 at Neds. And also Hudson Young, $2.50 at Bet365. For the Bulldogs, we're going Jacob Carraz, $1.95 at Bet365. And Jacob Preston at $3, also at $3.65. No place for the Dragons. For the Storm, Kane Bradley on the right wing, $1.95 at Bet365, and Jerome Hughes, $3.20 at Neds. Then for the Tigers, we're going Stafford Toa at $2.45 at Neds at right center. And in the halves, Jaden Campbell at $4 at Bet365 for the Titans. And for the Knights, Warriors, just the 1 play on the Warriors, and that's Laker Halasim at $3.75 at TAB. Those are going to be the 15 selections for try scorers this week. If you want to see all my final game bets, that's also in the NRL best bets, which is where you can also use all the research tools of the bet finders to make winning bets on the NRL. The reason I created these tools like this, what you're looking at here is just one of about 25, 30 different research tools I have for the NRL specifically to analyze games, analyze team performance, and make it really efficient in doing so. Because back 2013, 2014, I was betting on the NRL and really trying to make it work and decide if this is something that I wanted to continue on doing. Because back when I first started betting, it was like I either make money from betting or I'm not going to waste my time doing it, because I already enjoyed watching the sport. I didn't need to bet on it to just be able to watch it. And whilst, yes, betting on a game can make that game more entertaining when you're watching other teams play that you're not a fan of, I think for me, I just watched games that I was interested in on that week and didn't watch every game. Mostly just watched team sports games. But regardless, like back then, my mindset was I need to figure out a way to make money consistently betting on NRL and the other sports and stuff I was betting on. Otherwise, I'm not doing it. So that's what made me like research, figure out, okay, well, how do I know what bets to put on? And the two main things that stood out to me when going through and figuring out what worked and what didn't work was using statistics and analytics of team performances, both in attack and defense. And when I was realizing this, like there was hardly any information out there. And yes, you got the basic stats of who was the best attacking team, who made the most line breaks, and some just real basic stuff. But anything deeper to that, to the team performance, that wasn't available at all. So I started keeping track of every game, every team's performance, all their stats, everything, every detail that I could get about that team, keeping track of that game after game after game throughout the season, throughout the years. And that allowed me to build up a database which you guys can all use for yourselves now as well when I made it available last season. And being able to do that and have that information, you're able to rely less on just your memory of how teams play or your gut feeling about how they might play. Or like a lot of the times when we watch games, we'll create just this memory of, oh yeah, this team generally goes to the right. And it may just be you saw some highlights of them scoring a few tries on the right, and now you've created a narrative that they are a really strong right attacking side, but that might have just been in a game where they're playing a bad left edge defense or something like that, just as an example. But with the statistics, you can know for sure that this is how this team plays, this is how they've been playing consistently. In home games, this is what they do. In away games, this is what they do. When they're a favorite, they defend a lot better, whatever it may be. And so having all of that information allows you to make definite decisions knowing the facts and not just potential something that may be true. And then comparing that with situational factors and going into a specific game, that's where I'm combining lineups, weather, and all the conditions of the game, their rest leading in, their travel, who they played last week, who they're playing next week, their recent form, all of that goes into breaking their game down on a deeper level. And when I say lineups, we're looking at ins and outs and the strength of those ins and outs and the impact that it makes to the team. So when you can combine those main two categories, like obviously there's a lot of depth to both of them, you combine those together to find your bets, and then you pair that with bankroll management. So always staking consistently. If you're someone betting and your stake amounts vary dramatically bet to bet or even week to week or month to month, then just changing that up and having consistent staking structure where you're always betting the same amount on every selection, straight away you'll see better results from doing that. You'll often see people who lose money betting, they'll put a bet in the bet slip, like a multi or whatever it might be, or just a selection, and they'll start changing the stake depending on and looking at what the payout is going to be. And depending what that payout is going to be, that will determine what stake they put on. And depending on the odds ranges you're betting in, that stake can vary dramatically. And now the only way this works is if you're always backing to win the same amount. So you might want to put every bet on to win $100. That can work and that can be okay. But if you're looking at putting a bet in and it's just based off a feeling in that moment, I'll be really good to win $500 right now. And so you figure out what stake you need on to be able to win 500, and then the next day you're thinking, oh, it'd be good to win 200 today, and your feelings changed, then you're changing that. And then if you're doing big multis with lots of legs, you're like, oh, I want to win $5,000 off of this multi. How much do I need to put on to be able to make that happen? And that's the way that it everything goes downhill really quickly. So having that consistent staking structure really helps. And so it's either you're betting to win the same amount on every bet, or you're staking the same amount on every single bet. And those are the two best ways to go about it in my experience and what's worked for me. But that being said, these are the try scorer selections for this week. Really appreciate you guys watching, being part of the channel. Really good to see so many new members in the NRL bet finders, AFL bet finders as well. And also last week there was quite a few new people joining the racing show as well, which last week we made over 11.5 units on Saturday alone. So a really good day there. Profited yesterday on the Wednesday racing. So we're already up this week, and we're well over now the 1,700 units all time, and well over the 250 units profit so far for 2025, with almost still half the year to go. My goal for the racing this year is to get to the 500 units profit, and aiming for that, continuing that 10 unit average profit per week that we've had since October 2021, when I started the racing show and sharing my horse racing bets with members. Prior to that, I was just betting racing myself for about 9 years, and now just sharing the exact strategy with everyone a part of it. So I'll put the link to the racing show in the description as well if you want to check that out. If you bet on horse racing and you're betting on Saturdays, this is a really efficient way to go about it, and you get all the selections and the reasons why. You can also go through all the results of every bet every week to see how we've got to the 265 units so far this year. You can go through and break that all down. Thanks, guys. Good luck with all your bets this weekend, and really appreciate you guys watching and being part of the InvestorBet channel.